Rookie mistake, my bad. Good morning, everybody. I'd like to call the meeting to order. My name is Jim Begley. I'm the chairperson of the Metropolitan Utilities District Board of Directors. I'd like to welcome you all to the committee meetings this morning, February 7th, 2024. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and a recording of the meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Safety briefing. I'd like to invite our Vice President of Safety and Security, Shane Hunter, to provide a briefing regarding protocol for all individuals in attendance at the board meeting today in the event of an emergency. Shane.
Good morning. Shane Hunter, Vice President of Safety, Security, and Business Continuity. The M.U.D boardroom is on the first floor here at headquarters. Most of the people this morning came through the rear door. That is the main entry and exit from the space. There is another door over here on this side that leads to a central hallway, an interior central hallway. In that hallway, you will find the nearest fire extinguisher and first aid kit. A little bit further down on the right, you'll find the nearest AED. With the location of that AED in mind, a show of hands who's CPR and AED trained in the room. Thank you very much. Should there be a medical emergency in this space today, 911 will be contacted by the security team who will escort medical personnel into this room. If we need to leave this room for an emergency and evacuate the building today, we'll go through this door over here, take two lefts, and end up in the parking garage where we'll conduct an accountability. That concludes the safety briefing.
Thank you, Shane. Roll call vote.
Howard. Here. Kavanaugh.
Here.
Begley.
Here.
Cook. Here. Friend.
Here.
Sidzik.
Here.
McGowan.
Here.
I would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the boardroom. Construction Operations, Interim Senior Vice President and Chief Operating Officer Andy Melville will now review the proposed capital expenditures. Andy.
Good morning. Andy Melville, Interim Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. This morning I'll be reviewing the capital expenditure letter behind tab 5. This month there are 5 items under buildings, plants, and equipment and 2 under system improvements. I will be speaking to one in each of these categories this morning. The first item under buildings, plants, and equipment, labeled number 1, request approval for $70,000 to perform tree clearing and site preparation work at the Platte West Water Production Facility for fence installation on the east property boundary. You may remember a similar request which is approved in August board meeting to install the boundary fence along the north property line. From the time that construction of Platte West was completed and began operations in mid-2008, the surrounding area has rapidly changed from agricultural land to single-family, multifamily, and residential developments mixed in with mixed-use commercial developments. This project will remove the existing volunteer trees and brush prior to the growing season to accommodate for the installation of an aesthetic, anti-cut, anti-climb, public-facing fence to secure Platte West East property line and mitigate the potential for encroachment or trespass. A separate request for installation of the fence itself will be submitted following its own bidding process. We anticipate this to be completed in the third quarter of 2024. Second item I will review is under systems improvements in the middle of page 2. It's listed as number 1 for a total project cost of $200,000 for professional services to update the water distribution system master plan and hydraulic model. The current water system master plan was completed in 2022 and amended in 2023. Additional studies and model updates related to the master plan followed in 2023, which are now nearing their completion. This authorization will allow the district to continue to build from that work. Consistent reevaluation and refinement of the master plan and the system model are necessary so they both remain relevant and useful in guiding district decisions. An updated master plan benefits decision-making by accurately reflecting current conditions, changing future needs, and emerging concerns. A well-maintained system model provides accurate simulations, which are valuable for analyzing large and small-scale system improvements and can help inform operational decisions. The services requested under this authorization are expected to be completed by late 2024 or early 2025. That benefits us, and we will have the opportunity to use this updated model with several significant system decisions coming up early this year that will help us with the future planning for capital improvement projects and long-range budgeting to meet system needs. With that, I'd ask if there's any questions I can answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Interim Director of Plant Engineering, Adam Gartner, will review the acceptance of contracts and payment of final estimates. Adam, welcome.
Good morning, Adam Gardner, Interim Director of Plant Engineering. I'll be presenting this month's finals letter. There are 5 projects on this letter. 4 of them are traditional water development project, and the first one is a water IR project. I was going to highlight just a couple of them. The first is item A on the letter. This was a contracted water IR project with Roloff Construction. This project was completed late in 2023 and replaced about 6/10 of a mile of cast iron water main. Project was located in the Westgate neighborhood, or south of West Center Road, just west of 72nd Street. This project was significant because it was the first district water IR project that used pipe bursting methods with a local area contractor. Project did go well. The contractor and the district are planning to continue to use pipe bursting technology for cast iron water main replacement projects. Certainly expanding our pool of contractors' methods will be critical to ensure competitive costs and schedule for the district's water IR program. There was one previously approved change order for this project. The district changed installation methods when a portion of the existing water main was found to be located under the concrete curb rather than back a curb like expected. So total costs for this project were about $1.8 million per mile replaced. Remaining projects on the letter are more typical water development new subdivision projects. A couple items to note is item E was completed with Pat Thomas Construction. Pat Thomas Construction has completed work for the district previously, but this was one of the more recent projects that Pat Thomas completed as a general contractor. So again, it's good to see some newer contractors bidding and completing district water development projects. Last item I plan to note is item D. Again, this is a water development project, but it was a good example to where the district was able to pass along some cost savings to the developer. The project did have about a 15% reduction in the contract amount. Primary reason for this is because there was a complicated connection to the existing water main that the district design engineers identified. We just needed some additional valving and vaults that would be required because of elevations of the water main and storm connections. Once the contractor was mobilized and got everything excavated, the contractor was able to much more simply commit this connection. So again, a good example between district engineers, inspection personnel, and the contractor working together to pass along those cost savings to a developer. That was all I planned to highlight. Any questions?
Thanks, Adam. Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will now review the bids on materials and contracts. John.
Good morning. John Zellers, Vice President, Procurement and Enterprise Services. Bids on materials and contracts may be found under tab 7. There are several items I plan to discuss this morning, and the first may be found near the top of page 2. We are asking for the ratification of the low bid from Hawkins Construction to conduct the water main infrastructure replacement work in a joint contract with the City of Omaha's street improvement project around the 48th and Q Street area. District work will replace approximately 6,900 feet of 12-inch, 8-inch, and 6-inch cast iron water mains. As has been shared with the board in the past, the district will joint contract water main replacements with the City of Omaha street improvement and CSO projects. There are several advantages to joint contracting, including a lower overall project cost, reduction in the time to complete the project, more efficient scheduling of work, less adverse impacts to adjacent property owners, and less adverse impacts to the traveling public. In addition, the district would not be responsible for any barricading, paving repairs, or restoration costs, as this would be paid by the city. The next item may be found at the bottom of page 2. We are asking for the ratification of the second low bid for a variable frequency drive to replace one that failed on a backwash pump at Platte West. The purchase was made through the second low bidder, as they were able to provide the equipment within a week, whereas the lead time from the low bidder was 6 weeks. Time is critical, as the pump needs to be operational by March, so the Platte West may meet additional water demands during a scheduled shutdown of Florence that will last approximately a month. The next item may be found at the top of page 3. We accepted bids for the demolition of an old chlorine building at the Turner Pump Station. 3 bids were received, where the low bid provided by Hymus was significantly less than the other 2. Hymus is comfortable with their bid and has successfully completed work for the district in the past, and we're recommending their bid for approval. The last 2 items may be found on page 4. We are recommending extending the 2 contracts with Backlund Plumbing, one for inspecting sanitary sewer laterals for crossbores caused by recent gas pipe installations, and the other for sanitary sewer lateral pre- and post-inspections using lateral launch equipment. Backlund has and continues to perform this work well and has agreed to hold their current pricing for all of this work. And that's all I plan to discuss, but would be happy to answer any questions.
John, on that last one you just talked about, who installed that gas pipe, that installation that you're talking about there? Who's the installer?
So M.U.D, our district
We
crews
get it.
installed, yes. And so this is a safety measure to make sure that we don't accidentally bore through any sanitary sewer laterals of homes or businesses.
So that's kind of standard procedure?
It is standard procedure, yes.
Okay. And then I had one other question. The furnace at the Turner Pump Station, how old is it, the one being replaced?
I'm not sure I know the answer to that.
Just curious.
I don't know I don't know how old it is. I just know that we need to replace it. But we can definitely get that information to you, unless somebody happens to know. No, okay, sorry.
I have a kind of a related, thank you, related question about why the pump failed. What is this, frequency drive? Why did that fail? Do we know? Is it old? Was it flawed? Can we get our money back?
Is that, Steph, you want to take that?
Good morning, Stephanie Henn, Interim Director of Central Maintenance. One of the issues that we had, it was new with the Platte West plant, this variable frequency drive, and it failed actually on a 3-day weekend, like things typically do. It was new at the plant, so it's about 15 years old. As far as variable frequency drives go, that's about their lifespan. So we're pretty much at the end of life. Thank you.
Any other questions? All
Thanks, John.
right, thank you.
Vice President of Engineering, Masa Nia, will now review the proposed main extensions. Masa.
Good morning. Masania, Vice President of Engineering. The main extensions letter behind tab 9 includes 4 water main extensions for this month. The impacts of these 4 projects include water service and fire protection to 210 residential lots, as well as 3 commercial lots. These are spread across district subdivisions 1, 2, and 7. I'd like to highlight the first project on the letter, which is job number WP 2045, and I've got a map to share on this one. Thank you, Jay. This project is located near 216th and 4th Street, also north of Maple, as you can see, and includes district costs of $768,920 as part of the main extensions for the Magnolia Trails subdivision. This is proposed for the district to pioneer and oversize about a half mile of water main for future development along 216th Street, as you see with the red bold line north of West Maple Road there. This is in accordance with our procedures where oversizing is paid by the district through our impact fees, and most of our pioneer costs for this main will be recovered through future development as it occurs adjacent to the water main. Additionally, we are collecting $553,908 in pioneer fees for future mains adjacent to Magnolia Trails subdivision to the west and north of this development as seen in the map. That dashed black line is the future water main, so that's not part of this request for approval. The reason it's a future main is, as you can see, the 216th Street swings further to the east. The Papio NRD has a proposed dam site for flood control planned along just to the west of there. So Douglas County is planning for the road to be realigned to the east. So we're not installing that main right now to avoid any risk of relocation costs. Additionally, $162,917 will be collected for pioneer fees for an existing 24-inch main in 204th Street from this developer. So all these costs are just a great example of the diligence of our engineering team enforcing our main extension policy and making sure that developers and customers, as they acquire meters and pay impact fees, are paying for these mains. Finally, I'd like to mention 2 of these 4 developments have requested M.U.D gas service. These include the Magnolia Trails subdivision, as well as Hanover Falls Center subdivision. Those gas main extensions will be brought to this board for a request for approval in the future. The other 2 subdivisions include one that's outside of our gas service territory, and also another, a small development, Cardinal Commons subdivision, that has not requested gas service. This is all I plan to cover on the main extension letter, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Masa.
Thank you.
Vice President of Human Resources, Bonnie Savine, will now review employee wage and salary increases and ratifications, and also the SPA salary structure adjustment. Bonnie.
Thank you. It's that time of year. Good morning. Bonnie Savine, Vice President, Human Resources. I do have a couple of other things that I will be covering prior to tab 10. The first thing that I would like to do is provide an update to the board regarding the selection of the Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer. As you are all aware from Mr. Doyle's communication, on January 15th, Mr. Kendall Minor has been selected to fill this role. Kendall's planned start date is Monday, March 4th, so he will be here at the next board meeting, and he looks forward to meeting each of you then. So just spoke with Kendall last night, and I know he is looking forward to coming in. I think he might be watching this morning. Next, to recap employee counts for the end of January 2023 and 24. On January 21st, 2023, we had 868 regular full-time employees with 3 regular part-time. That gave us a total of 871 regular employees. To end this January, we had 894 regular full-time employees and 5 regular part-time for a total of 899. We're right on the cusp of 900 there. We also had 10 temporary part-time employees that consisted of 1 temporary part-time and 9 interns. A review of jobs that are currently in various stages of job placement. We have 1 job that has a requisition routing for review and approval. And we have 8 jobs that are currently posted. 7 are external only, as Mr. Roberts is showing on the screen. 1 is internal and external. So those are available now for application. 10 jobs are in the application review or interview stages, and then we also have 4 jobs, each with a single selected candidate that is going through the onboarding process. And with the topic of filling vacant jobs at M.U.D in mind, I would like to take just a few more minutes to highlight a new program the district launched last year. In partnership with a program from Don't Panic Labs, our IT department and HR created and posted a job opportunity available to current M.U.D employees for an apprentice role in IT. This apprentice role included a 20-week course on software development and placement on a team within our IT department. The selected candidate for that program and position, Tiffany Jackson, has completed the program and is working as part of our IT department now. We thank her for going on this journey with us and daring to pursue something new. And we do have a short 2-minute video that highlights the program, and we are excited to share that with you today.
name is Tiffany Jackson. I've been here at Metropolitan Utilities District since April 2011. I worked in our Builders and Contractors Department, where I was a builder service clerk. I've been working towards this goal since I went back to school to earn my master's degree in Management Information Systems to become an IT software developer. After completing that journey, I needed the experience, and the Pathways program gave me the opportunity to have that experience.
Yeah, we have challenges hiring just like many other organizations do. IT is a tough field across the country right now. We decided to open up a position called an IT apprentice, and we opened it up like any other position, but just kept it internal. And we kind of surprised ourselves with the excitement that it generated in the company.
I think that was probably of this whole process the biggest surprise to me is really how much talent we have at M.U.D.
I'm very excited about the challenge. I get to challenge myself in new ways that I didn't know I wanted or needed. I just knew I needed to grow.
I think this has been a great fit for us. And I would highly recommend Don't Panic Labs for anyone that's considering that. What we decided to do is take someone right out of the business that doesn't have that background, or whether you're trying to retool.
Whenever we recruit a fresher from outside, we have to teach them or train them on our business. Now, this is something easy, right? Business, the person coming from business, they already know business. So solely tooling them with the technical aspect. My advice to anyone else looking for, this is a great program, especially when we look at only a 20-week period and a concentrated effort.
Overall, I feel that this Pathways program was great, that it gave me the opportunity that I've been looking for this whole time in my life to be able to transition over to a software developer. And I feel comfortable walking into the role that I was able to earn. And I feel like my future moving forward is a bright one.
And Tiffany is here with us today, so congratulations, Tiffany, on completing that program.
Mark Doyle, President. I don't want to embarrass you, Tiffany, but so you've been here since April of 2011. May of 2011, I became part of M.U.D's staff, and we used to run into each other at the Operations Center quite a bit because I spent a lot of time there. I do remember the conversation that, I'm getting my master's and I want to get into IT. So this is just fantastic. Thanks for stepping up. And there's been so much excitement. So many employees have commented on this. It really generates more than just a great opportunity for you. It's a great opportunity for the entire organization. So thank you. This is awesome for me.
Well done, Tiffany. Well done.
Okay, and now behind tab 10, you will find the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications letter. Human Resources is recommending the Board of Directors approve wage or salary increases for 8 employees this month. 3 OAC employees will receive increases due to promotion. 1 OAC employee will receive a wage increase due to a job progression promotion. We also have 1 SPA promotion, and then there are 3 SPA new hire ratifications on the last section of the letter. Do you have any questions? Okay. Behind tab 10 is the recommendation for the annual SPA salary structure adjustment. The salary scales for SPA employees are reviewed on an annual basis, and recommendations for adjustments brought to the board as part of our compensation process. The district's organizational excellence and financial responsibility pillars are continuously a factor in the review and recommendation. Attracting and retaining a skilled and engaged workforce is essential to delivering on our mission. The dedication to service and overall performance of our employees was evident throughout the past year. Also, management has continued to focus on our approved budget, which demonstrates financial responsibility, and today's recommended 3.75% is included for this employee group in the approved 2024 budget. As in previous years, we take several things into consideration. The recommended adjustment is a collected effort and not made lightly. Management's recommendation for the 2024 SPA salary structure adjustment is 3.75%. This adjustment would be effective on March 1st, as would the 3.75% general increase for SPA employees. Are there questions on that? Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Senior Vice President and General Counsel, excuse me, Mark Mendenhall will now present the City of Ralston Franchise and Acquisition Agreement. Mark.
Thank you, Mark Mendenhall, Senior Vice President, General Counsel. It's tough to follow those two items. I do have Rick Kubat, so I'm sure we will be almost equally entertaining. Behind tab 12, you will find a recommendation to authorize Mark Doyle to enter into a renewal of the Ralston Water Franchise Agreement. We have been serving water to the City of Ralston since 1972. The service has been provided pursuant to franchise agreements. The franchise agreements are 25-year terms. The last 25-year term had expired approximately a year and a half ago. We've been in negotiations with Ralston city officials sometime prior to that, and behind my memorandum, I believe, is the franchise agreement. I understand this will be presented to the Ralston City Council in approximately a week or so. What you see here is just the map, Ralston area bounded by City of Omaha. And I want to point out this is a bit of a unique arrangement in that previously Ralston owned the water distribution system, whereas everywhere else that the district serves, the district owns the system. So the district owns the pipes, the valves, the hydrants, et cetera. Ralston had always maintained ownership of its own system. So the arrangement that is presented to you today is one that not only renews the franchise, but also provides ownership of the system to the district so that we can now own it. And this is something that we feel is appropriate and brings Ralston in line with the rest of the territory that we serve, including the other municipalities that we serve. Another unique piece of Ralston is that you can see highlighted there in different bold colors there. That's approximately 0.9 miles of water main that is shallow. And by shallow, I'll say approximately less than a foot of cover. And we've identified that as a risk. And during negotiations with Ralston city officials, we indicated we will take ownership of the system provided that we are compensated for the value of that risk, meaning that what is the cost to replace those shallow mains with mains that are of standard depth. And so over the course of 10 years, beginning, I believe, here in March, an additional fee will be, an additional amount will be added to an existing service fee for Ralston customers, so approximately 6,500 folks within the Ralston area, that's the population of Ralston, will be added to collect approximately $900,000, which is intended to fund the replacement of those shallow mains. The fee is based on meter size. Average residential customer, I believe, is about $2.60 a month. Happy to answer any questions on Ralston.
Mark, I've got a question, and I'm pretty sure you probably have done this, or you've had people in our construction water distribution, someone look at this. The big thing I hear from mostly our employees is that a lot of times the records that we have, especially when we adopt a system like this and become owners, are not accurate. What have we done, if you could just give me a high-level view, to make sure that whatever records Ralston has that we're now going to own this system are accurate?
And yeah, you're absolutely right. We've run into issues as we've taken over the gas system from Elkhorn or a system in Millard where the records have been less than ideal. I would say what is different with Ralston is, though, while we haven't owned it, we've been operating it since 1972. And so our records, I believe, and I'll look to Mr. Nia or Mr. Skovanec, our records within the city of Ralston boundaries would be similar to our records outside of Ralston. So we would have as-builts for the new pipe that we've installed or the pipes that we've replaced, service cards for services that have been installed, and all of that would be inputted into our GIS system. In addition, as part of this project, we performed random sampling to gain a better understanding of the location of lead service lines. We anticipate there are a few. That was factored into the approximate $900,000 value. We didn't find any through that random sampling, but we anticipate there may be. So that's probably the area where we don't have the greatest visibility. And again, that's not uncommon with the rest of our system. So hopefully that answers. And I don't know, Martha, if you want to come up and correct me, you're welcome to.
So if I could, so that I understand this, did we basically, like we do at the NRD in the Fort Calhoun area, just wholesale water to Ralston before now? So if they owned the system, did we just sell it at the meter per unit?
Mark Doyle, President. I want to talk about this one a little bit. Sure. The reason this one, I've been watching it for quite a while, is because Ralston is a little bit of an anomaly for us. Shortly before I came on the board in the 92, we had just got done acquiring Bellevue, and Bellevue was truly a water system in the city of Bellevue, run by Bellevue. We had nothing to do with it. We took it over, we acquired it, we owned it, and they rate financed it over 25 years. You may recall whenever it is we got done with that. This is better because we've been running Ralston for however many years, since '72. I'm only speculating that Ralston wanted to maintain ownership, and we must have acquiesced back in the '70s because they didn't want to be seen as part of Omaha. But nothing is different here in terms of our system other than they own it, and it's caused a few issues like they get assessed a WER fee. How do we administer water infrastructure replacement dollars in Ralston when we don't really own it? We fix main breaks. I've visited with a couple mayors, but lately Mayor Grosser, we've had some discussions over the years, not lately, especially when they shut down Lakewood Golf Course, if anybody remembers that, and developed some apartment. There were a lot of issues on how we handle that. So first on the records question, we are in better shape here because we've owned it, as Mark said, but I always want to emphasize that that feedback loop from what's happening in the field back to the back office needs to be rock solid. They are going to discover things that aren't quite right according to our maps, and it's very important that, and I'm hoping that it's better than it used to be, and I'm looking to Tom and Terry. But I'll always help support getting those accurate records back to the back office. I'm straying from your question a little bit, but I wish we would have owned Bellevue a while before we took it, because we had a lot of problems. They had 2-inch mains that we didn't consider mains. You remember all that?
Yeah,
probably.
well, my concern was more along the lines of, and I guess I didn't realize how much impact or involvement we had with Ralston. When we took over Elkhorn, I remember that, and it was a mess. Their records were, in some cases wrong, in some cases non-existent. We inherited it, and then we had to fix it. I just want to make sure we're not.
This isn't that situation.
We've done our due diligence, so we're not buying,
no,
something that looks really nice, and then you start the engine and it doesn't run.
Because we operated it, Director French,
Got it.
really. But
Yeah.
Elkhorn, and we didn't just inherit it. By statute, we own and operate the gas system in the city of Omaha.
I didn't.
And that
we
was
got
like,
it whether we wanted it or not, is what I meant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We probably, it would have been nice to know what we were getting there, and it was a lot of trouble. I hope I answered the question, but records are never going to be perfect. But back to your original question, that feedback loop is critically important.
So we've already mapped, we know where, obviously based on those mains that are too shallow, we know where the infrastructure is that we're going to have to deal with, and we have records on that.
Yes.
Because of our records, we know about that.
Right. Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and that's a sticking point. The citizens of Ralston are going to be assessed a fee to cover that. And they're going to communicate to them. And yeah, this is interesting. This is something really different.
I would just, oh, sorry.
No, that they own the
Yep.
system is really different. I don't think we would do that today. We wouldn't recommend doing that today.
No, I believe, yeah, our preference would be to operate it just like we're doing today, that we would own, as opposed to another municipality, unless it's a wholesale arrangement. Only other two things I would add. One, after the Ralston City Council approves the agreement, we will, and we already have, collaborated on messaging for Ralston customers so that they are aware of this, I would say slight, but I don't want to diminish the amount, increase to their bills. And then finally, it's been a long journey. I just want to recognize Julie Thacker, Corey Yerschbaumer, Sue Lobsiger, the business development team, and all of the engineering folks who've assisted along the way, including Mr. Myers. It's been a big group work effort. So,
I confess I don't know, did people in Ralston, were they able to vote for an MUD board member before? No, and now yes they are because they're...
I'm going to take a guess here, which I shouldn't do, but I think they're voting on him.
Yes, they've been voting.
Yeah,
Yes.
see, that's even different. You wouldn't think that would be the case when they own the system, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that doesn't change. They were voting, but they could vote before, and so, okay.
Yep.
Not my district, but just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, but still.
Having marched in the 4th of July parade in 2012 when it was 200 degrees outside, I can tell you, yeah, Ralston's part of our...
Oh, yeah.
All right, I will now direct your attention to tab 13.
You know, Mark,
sorry.
I am going to belabor it just a hair. I do want to also compliment all of our field folks, whether top to bottom, construction, field service, water D, gas D. We've taken care of Ralston extremely well over the years, and we've had incidents there where we've lost gas, we've had water main breaks. We've always treated it like we owned it. Fair, do you agree? Because we really watch. There's some areas that in our risk assessment model need help, and they're around 84th and L south of there. We've really taken care of them well, and my interactions with Ralston have always been good. They've appreciated it. So we really want your support on this, and this will be a great step in the right direction.
Agreed.
Mark, will MUD be going in to put those shallow pipes in further into the ground? That seems like that was kind of a mistake way back when those were put in, at 10 inches or maybe less than 12 inches?
Or you never know, over the years, the ground gets taken
I
off.
suppose,
Things happen to our
erosion.
system that, I assume we're doing that?
Yeah, so as part of the agreement, we are collecting those dollars, and then the intention is to replace those shallow mains over the course of the 10-year period. So, yes. So that'll fund that work when it's up on.
Well, with everything, with the cable installation and everything, you worry
Yes.
that they'd be too easy to hit those pipes.
Agreed.
Those shallow pipes.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Tab 13, I would describe this as a bit of belt and suspenders approach. The board previously authorized execution of a purchase agreement. This is for the 20-acre parcel near 168th and Cape Hart Road. We entered into the purchase agreement. We completed all due diligence related to the acquisition, and then closing was scheduled and completed January 10th. So the district currently owns that 20-acre parcel. We, as part of that closing, also acquired several easements from the owner and the owner's mother, who lives across the street. And that was all wrapped up. So I'm asking the board to ratify the closing effort. And I am sure that the engineering group will be excited to share details of the project to develop a water reservoir and pump station as those designs become closer to reality. So, any questions? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. Tab 14, Attorney Justin Cooper will present the purchase agreement and closing for 2816 State Street. Justin, welcome.
Good morning. Justin Cooper, staff attorney for M.U.D. I'm here seeking approval of the purchase of a residence at 2816 State Street. We have a map showing the proximity of that house to both the fence line and the chemical building. This house came on the market, as has others in that area, and in order to increase our safety as well as our buffer zone, we're seeking approval of the purchase of this for $227,490.18, which includes the closing costs. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Justin. Governmental Relations Attorney Rick Kubat will present the first legislative report for 2024. I feel like we should play like Bachman Turner Overdrive, Taking Care of Business, when Rick comes up. Your walk-up song, like you're coming up to the plate.
Thanks for those expectations. Rick Kubat, Government Affairs. On tab 15 should be the legislative report. Fortunately, this is the 60-day short session. We always prefer the short session over the long session. I'm going to get right into it. The first bill on your list, LB 1018 from Senator Holdcroft, as initially introduced, stated that political subdivisions or state agencies could not require applicants for public employment possess a post-secondary degree. Senator Holdcroft has introduced an amendment to that bill, so as of now, with the presumption the amendment gets adopted, it would only be applicable to state agencies, thus removing M.U.D. from any components of that legislation. The next item is LB 1069 from Senator Halloran. This is a cleanup bill introduced on behalf of the State Fire Marshal's Office. Neither the district nor our other states' natural gas providers were made aware that this bill was coming, and it did make two pretty substantive changes. One, it increased the potential fines from $10,000 per violation to $200,000, as well as relating to a series event, an increase from $500,000 to $2 million. The State Fire Marshal's Office wants this bill because PHMSA, they get an auditing score from PHMSA for purposes of receiving federal grant dollars. PHMSA is saying that they want all the state's fining mechanisms to reflect what they have. Otherwise, they're going to deduct them, their PHMSA audit scores. M.U.D. along with Black Hills and Northwestern showed up and testified against the bill, saying that, hey, look, if we go with these increased enhanced fine penalties, instead of working with you, we're fearful that this is going to turn into more of an adversarial posturing by the parties because of the potential fiscal liability. You know, how does that enhance public safety? So that was one of the concerns raised at the hearing. The other aspect of the bill is it raises the statutory authority that the state fire marshals has in terms, and this is statewide, where right now all gas meters in the state are charged a 20-cent assessment. This would increase it to 50 cents for purposes of fiscal consideration. At 20 cents, the district pays roughly $50,000. The state fire marshal's intent is not to go up to the 50-cent cap over the next couple of years, but only to the 40-cent cap, meaning we're likely looking over the next couple of years an additional $50,000 assessment. So while this bill has been in play, extremely thankful. Mark Willis has been working with legal counsel with Black Hills Energy and Northwestern to try and work with the State Fire Marshal's Office to assure that we have adequate due process in play when a notice of potential violations occurs, so that there does continue to be more of a back and forth between us and the State Fire Marshal in terms of addressing the public safety aspect, as well as essentially a built-in kind of appeals process where we have the ability potentially to use an administrative hearing officer. So at this juncture, the bill's been offered. the collective natural gas providers, along with the Nebraska League of Municipalities, in consultation with Mr. Willis, have sent back to the State Fire Marshal's office some proposed changes on the bill. So as it remains right now, the district's on record as opposing it, but we're seeing if we can make some changes to the bill to come to some consensus. So next time I hope to be a lot less long-winded on that one. Hopefully we'll make some progress. The next, I'm going to skip over. Yep.
Do you know where that came from, like out of, because it's under the auspices of the governor's office, who had this great idea and for how long and what was motivating it? Any clues that you'd be able to share?
There was quite a bit of dialogue with the State Fire Marshal's office, with all of us collectively, natural gas providers, illustrating the fact that we're frustrated that we didn't have conversations prior to bill introduction. They're familiar with that. The State Fire Marshal's office has stated that they've been trying to get this done for years, and now they're getting additional pushback from PHMSA at this time for all states to have these enhanced penalty structures in play.
So maybe they had been trying to work through a previous administration or administrations to address the concerns from PHMSA, and now they might feel like their backs to. That's just an idea.
I think that's exactly what happened. I think previous executive administration in Nebraska weren't excited to move in this direction. And from the perspective of the State Fire Marshal's office, they're getting direction from PHMSA that now's the time where we're expecting all states to act in this direction. I'll skip a couple of bills that I think are pretty straightforward. The next item I want to talk to about is LB 1245 from Senator McDonald. Last year, the district was able to have inserted in the biennium budget a $10 million appropriation, which created the lead service line cash fund. So $10 million was appropriated. There was a deadline for expenditure of those funds because it was in the biennium budget of June 30th, 2025. There was a back and forth with M.U.D. and the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, who administered that grant, about our ability to use the lead service line cash fund to make loan payments to the federal drinking water state revolving fund, also administered by NDE. This bill was brought essentially to clarify that, one, yes, we can use the state cash dollars to fully leverage against the federal dollars available specifically for lead service line replacement. It also is an attempt, and this part is a work in progress, to address that as things stand right now, we have a June 30th, 2025 expenditure deadline. And then the third item, Senator McDonald, when he initially introduced the bill last year, wanted a labor training component. Within this cleanup bill, of the $10 million, there is $2 million allocated for a labor training program. As the bill was introduced prior to committee, the Nebraska Department of Environment and Energy, NDE, was to be the administrator of that grant program. Senator McDonald, during his testimony, indicated his desire for M.U.D. to oversee that labor training component. At this juncture, this is our bill. We want to be supportive and have the opportunity to leverage against the federal dollars. That being said, there are some concerns because historically speaking, political subdivisions do not administer grant programs. With that being said, what we would like to do is acknowledge those concerns to Senator McDonald, keep on working with him on the draft of the bill, and make sure that it's drafted in an appropriate and acceptable manner for the district. And moving on, LB 1300 from Senator Bostar is an interesting bill. It is brought on behalf of the governor by Senator Bostar, and the goal of the bill is to make reasonable preparations should a conflict in the Pacific Theater occur. The reason why this bill is of interest to the district is because the act creates a committee on Pacific conflict. They've got to prepare a comprehensive risk assessment focused on critical infrastructure, which would include the district. And for purposes of completing the assessment, owners and operators of critical infrastructure may be required to submit information related to our assets. Essentially, this committee could ask the district for some of our supply chain information. There are some concerns related to this bill in terms of providing information regarding our supply chain and to what degree that information becomes available in the public purview. Does that create the very security risk that the bill is trying to address? That being said, our recommendation, and I do believe it's a wise one, is for the board to remain neutral on the bill and try and work with Senator Bostar to address those concerns. I am rather certain that our concerns are going to be addressed through others at the committee hearing process, and I believe that this bill is a work in progress. I do believe some version of this bill is going to come out to the floor, but I believe the ultimate bill that is considered by the floor in all likelihood is going to look something quite a bit different from the original introduction of the bill itself.
Hey, Rick, if Homeland Security approached us and asked for this information, would we not give it to them now?
If it was Homeland Security, I believe we would get it. If it was, you know, Paul's Apple Shop in California, we would have a statutory exemption that to a general member of the public saying, hey, because the information you're asked for relates to safety and security measures of the district, we don't have to provide it to you under the normal, you know, open public records laws.
So would this be a state committee that they're talking about assembling?
It is. In the state committee, the way the bill is written right now is the state committee will conduct their business in open settings. So this is a concern that's shared, I know, by, I would say, Public Power and other utilities, and I know that they're in dialogue with Senator Bostar, and I believe, as I understand it, and the hearing on this is tomorrow, that there are going to be people showing up and testifying against this bill. That being said, I truly believe that the version of the bill that exists in committee and what in all likelihood is going to come out of committee, I think they're going to look like two very different things.
And you're comfortable with neutral at this point?
Neutral with the understanding that the board is comfortable that what I'm going to do is engage with Senator Bostar and say we share the same concern as our fellow other utilities. We're interested in working with you to make sure that our security concerns are adequately addressed as your bill evolves.
Okay, thanks.
I'm close to being done, I promise. The next item I wanted to mention, and it does have a hearing today, is LB 1358. And what that bill does is it would allow the governing bodies of any political subdivision to essentially provide their governing bodies a cost of living adjustment plus 1%. What this bill specifically addresses, and it addresses the same for Public Power, who's also on board with supporting this bill. It addresses the fact that the way that we're structured, the state legislature sets your salary caps. And the problem occurs when, like in your case, it doesn't get adjusted for 10, 20. In your case, the bill that passed increasing your cap occurred in 2001. This board acted on it in 2003. Essentially, your salaries remained dormant for over 2 decades. This is depressing to me, but I got on the Google machine and found out that $1 from 2001 has the equivalent purchasing power of $1.73 due to inflation. So essentially, I don't mean to rub it in, this board is making 58% if you take that into consideration of what the board could have made in 2001. So this is Senator McDonald's attempt to address that issue. The bill is broad. It includes all political subdivisions, which will lead to an interesting committee hearing today. So the management's recommending that we support that proposal. And then the very last item that I want to speak to is Senator Kavanaugh's LB 1366. That bill essentially has 2 parts. The one part that specifically addresses political subdivisions such as the district. It states that you would no longer be able to take property through eminent domain unless you had the approval from the local governing body. What that essentially means is anytime you're outside your territorial jurisdiction, if you were to exercise eminent domain, you would have to go get permission from said county, city, or village. This could be problematic. I know for certain that when we acquired Platte South, we had to use eminent domain. I know many of you on the board were here when Platte West was being built. If we had to use eminent domain for acquiring those properties in Saunders County, it is almost certain Saunders County would have said no. So this bill is opposed by basically all the other political subdivisions similarly situated to M.U.D. It's really kind of a no-brainer. When you do main extensions, a lot of time you're operating outside of your boundaries, and the bill itself would be problematic. I've discussed the same with Senator Kavanaugh, and he understands our opposition. In his words, it's the price of doing business. But I told him this current bill is just not workable for us.
Rick, is it have other political subdivisions abused their authority with eminent domain? Why did Senator Kavanaugh bring this bill forward, in your estimation?
That's a good question, and there's a lot of stuff going on there, whether it's transmission lines for public power, are the name escapes me, but the projects the Bold, Nebraska projects, the natural gas transmission lines that Bold, Nebraska has issues with, and then there's also concerns about private entities, which is another component, the second aspect of this bill that I didn't speak to, the proposed carbon capture projects that are slated to try and assist ethanol. The general concern of whether it's private entities or public entities coming in and acquiring land via eminent domain.
Because I'm really proud of what Mr. Mendenhall's staff does when we have these issues come before the board. And I know the board is very conscientious of when we have to exercise this right. So we've been a model in my mind for how to go about utilizing this tool.
To that respect, and I know the Nebraska League of Municipalities, when they spoke in opposition, in eminent domain is always the last course that the district wants to go down. The bill does require that if we're going to use eminent domain, that we've got to turn over the appraisal to the property owner so that we can show that we're operating in good faith. I don't think we have any issue with that good faith portion of the bill, because we're paying fair market value when we go out and acquire a property. And again, it's the item of last resort if we absolutely need to acquire property so that we can serve the general public with their gas and water needs. So with that, the next board report, I apologize that this one is long. It's because of all the carryover legislation. I'm going to remove all the bills on the list to shorten it up that have been indefinitely postponed or that have been already approved by the governor. And in addition to what's on the list, there are numerous other legislative proposals that will be monitored on behalf of the district. And as things evolve down in Lincoln, there may or may not be more additional items on the board report.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Appreciate the update. Senior Vice President and Chief Financial Officer Mark Myers will present the 2023 investment review consisting of the retirement plan and other post-employment benefits, followed by Joseph Wolfman with Vanguard Institutional Advisory Services. Mark.
Good morning, Mark Myers, Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer. Rick's a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. The information I have to present today is behind tab A. There's a memo addressing 2 topics related to the pension and OPEB trust accounts. This is information only, and we're not requesting a vote of the board this morning. The first topic covered in that memo is a brief summary of the investment performance for the pension and OPEB plans for the year ended December 31st, 2023. The investments performed very well this year, with full-year returns of 16.22% for the pension plan and 17.19% for the OPEB plan. Those are net of fees. Joe Wolfram, the Senior Investment Consultant from Vanguard Institutional Advisory Services, is in attendance and will be presenting more details about this information. Before we get to that, I did want to address the second topic that's included in the memo, and that is related to an interim investment management agreement. As has previously been communicated to the board, the district was notified by Vanguard that it's selling its investment advisory services business to another firm. That transaction is expected to take place near the end of February. And the new firm does not provide services to public pension plans, so will be required to search for another firm. That search is expected to start here in February. Will involve the Insurance and Pension Committee in that selection process, and the final selection will be submitted to the board, the full board, for approval. As a temporary solution, we've been contacted by a firm called PFM Asset Management to offer interim services. They would offer the services under the same terms, pricing, and investment strategy offered by Vanguard. And we believe this is the prudent approach to take in the interim until we select a permanent provider or a longer-term provider. It will allow us to continue to maintain a consistent level of service and allow some flexibility in the timing of making that final selection. This was discussed with the Insurance and Pension Committee at the meeting on January 22nd, and the committee approved management's request to enter into an agreement. So we're working with PFM now to have that agreement in place before the Vanguard sale is completed near the end of February. Are there any questions on that before I turn it over to Joe? Okay. So as Joe has some materials that will be displayed on the screen. They're also behind tab A in your materials. Joe also presented this information to the INP committee on January 22nd. And before I introduce Joe, I just would like to express my appreciation to him for his excellent service and the financial advice he's given the district over the last several years, and we'll definitely miss working with him and wish him the best going forward.
Thank you, Mark. Good morning, everyone. As Mark said, my name is Joe Wolfram, Senior Investment Consultant with Vanguard Institutional Advisory Services. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your continued trust and commitment to Vanguard. It's been a fantastic relationship. Of course, first things first, it is an investment-first relationship. And I think on the next few slides, we'll see we have had investment success, and that's obviously most important for the plans. But this is also a relationship business, and I want to let you know I've truly valued our relationship. I've really enjoyed working with the board and the committee over the since 2017 when I stepped on. So I certainly, going forward, am going to miss this relationship. And thank you for trusting in me. That's one of the biggest things that we're going to really talk about on the next few slides. On slide 2, you can see investment performance. As you might recall, this time last year, performance was negative. I don't have any control over performance. It's the markets are what they are, and you'll find that with any provider. There's no crystal ball. Quite honestly, this year, as Mark had mentioned, performance for the pension plan, 16.22%. Performance for the OPEB plan, 17.19%. I actually get more nervous talking about positive performance than negative performance. Last year, when we were down, you'll always have something to look forward to. When markets are up, I don't want you to get the idea that this is normal. So when you think about your long-term expected return on asset assumption, discount rate, 6.75%, that's normal. But you'll see over the long term, in any given year, you rarely get normal. And this year is no exception. So last year was about negative 17%. This year's positive 17%. When you look back to 2021, we got about 14%. 2020, 14%. 2019, 20%. All very big numbers. But the other takeaway is there were quarters. And there's specific quarters. If you go back to the first quarter of 2020, we were down 16%. When you go back to the first quarter of 2018, we were down about 2%. And even to end 2018, we were down about 9%. So we're going to hit periods like that. As you can see on this page, the first two quarters, very strong positive. And when we show quarterly returns, that's not an annualized number. So that first quarter of 2023, 5.4%. The second quarter, basically about 3.5% to 4%. Lo and behold, in the third quarter, negative returns, negative 3.6. But true to form, and you can't have a comeback without a setback, in the fourth quarter of the year, we had about 10.5% returns to bring us to those strong annual numbers. So that's what you want to think about going forward, is setting the strategy and sticking with the strategy. I will say, when you look at the strategy itself, the asset values at the end of 2023, pension plan was about $535 million. The OPEB plan was about $92 million. Since that point in time, the pension plan is up to about $536, so up about $1 million, and that would be net of pension payroll. So those no contributions yet, but a little bit down, and the portfolio is up about $1 million. And the OPEB plan is about $93 million. So again, important takeaways. In 2023, and to give another music reference, there was a term, the Magnificent Seven. Magnificent Seven isn't just a song from The Clash in the late 70s. It refers to the top 7 stocks in the S&P 500. So those top 7 stocks, as you could see, and I'm not going to jump forward, but some of the slides in the back are basically discuss that. But the top 7 stocks basically make up 20, I'm going to cheat a little bit and look on slide 9. The top 7 stocks represent 23.5% of the full index. So 493 stocks make up 76% of it, yet the largest 7 make up 23%. When you think about the drivers of returns in 2023, that was U.S. equities were the significant driver, returning 26%. Of that 26% return, 14%, or well more than half of that, was due to 7 stocks. And that's going to happen in given years. If you think about the year before, those returns were negative, and that was the largest driver. But again, 7 stocks drove most of the returns for the portfolio for this year. Big numbers. This time last year, could I have picked those 7 stocks? No. The good news, you own all 7 stocks, which is in any given year, the year before, that would have hurt. But that's the takeaway, is you basically don't find the needle in the haystack, buy the haystack, and you're going to see positive returns. Moving to slide 3. I'm just going to spend a minute on slide 3. I was told by someone that Albert Einstein said that the power of compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. I don't know if it's true or not. If you look at the far right-hand corner, you could see whether it's true or not. Going back to inception with Vanguard, which was effectively January 1st, 2015, the pension portfolio had $208 million to start. In addition, from beginning of 2015 to the end of 2023, the net cash flow, which would be contributions, less expenses and benefit payments, was a positive $76 million. Going further down, net investment change is $250 million to a final value of $535 million. When that's broken out, the initial balance is about 39% of that 535. The net cash flow makes up about 14% of that 535. And finally, the power of compounding, all those returns make up almost 47% of that current asset value. So that's what the power of compounding is. And it really shows we're going to have periods where positive returns, we're going to have periods of negative returns, but overall, you want to control what you can control, and that's basically your costs. Keep your costs low. As we showed on the prior slide, fund expenses, 5 basis points. That's 1 nickel per $100 invested. Advisory fees, 3 basis points. That's 0.03% or 3 pennies per every $100. That's what you can control. You can't control the market. So going forward, that's just really what you want to remember. Finally, I'm just going to take a moment to call out success. That's what we like to do. This has been both plants have had years of investment success. Again, not on a quarterly basis, but it's the power of compounding that you want to see. And I want to go back to the video with Tiffany in it. So Tiffany, I don't want to embarrass you again. I love your mug. Your mug, if you noticed in the video, she had a mug that said, "Don't panic." And I think it was missing the I. That's the investment strategy. When you think investments, whether it's the pension and OPEB plans or your personal accounts, et cetera, the strategy is don't panic. Set a strategic long-term allocation, as we've done here, stick to it. There have been days, there have been moments, even I panic. This time last year, we're down 17%. If I told you, move it all to cash, I give up. That would be the absolute wrong time. October 12th, 2022 was the low at that point. The fourth quarter of last year, all the way to this summer, positive returns. This summer we hit, as you can see in some of the appendix slides or further back, I'm not going to speak to those, any given month you can have any given returns, and that's why we set that long-term strategy. And credit to you for your investment success. And going forward, just remember those 2 words, don't panic. That's it. Any questions?
I would, Mark Doyle, President, I know the board will want to have a little interaction, but I do want to take a moment to thank you for your service that goes back to 2017 and your really mentorship. When I go back to January of 2015, and really prior to that, we were going through some major management changes, and we decided to take a look at our investment advisor strategy, and we did make a change, and that was effected on January 1st of 2015. We're almost 10 years later. I feel like I'm really confident. I'm not, we have to do this. We have to pick a new advisor. It's not a bad thing. I mean, we would purposely go through this now and then, like with our auditors and things. I wouldn't choose to do this, but since we're in this position, I'm confident we have a great team. What I think I've seen happen over the last 10 years, credit to the management and employees of M.U.D, and I want to include the union leadership here, our business acumen in terms of financial knowledge has nothing but gone up. And when you say things like, have a strategy, set a strategy, don't panic, and my favorite quote that you've given to us, and you know what I'm going to say, don't just do something, stand there. And that's how you weather those quarters that are tough. But today I picked up a couple other things. I love the song reference, but I also like that you take a look at these things, and this is nothing new, but you look at them over time, and we kind of have the, I don't want to say luxury, but we have the opportunity not to panic, and we don't want to panic. But I will say our pension plan should be the envy of everyone. It is in great shape. I don't know what our funding percentage is now, but it's probably still in the 90s.
94, I think I just saw recently.
And we could get to 100 maybe. And we have an OPEB plan that is now looking good. And that's credit not just to the management and staff of M.U.D, but to this board for supporting that. It sounds like it's easy, but in practice, it's not easy. So really, this is a great opportunity, not to just, it was a great move. There's no doubt about it. And the mentorship that came along with the hardcore service was wonderful, but I'll never, ever take for granted or undervalue the support of this publicly elected board to get these benefits in a position that they're in. So
Thank you. The credit really does go to the board. I think that's, and the committees. That's where the drive is. And just to touch base on the OPEB, going back to the end of 2018, so at 1/1/2019, the OPEB plan was about 24.4 million, and now we're over 93 million. So it's phenomenal growth. And that hasn't just been investment returns, that's been contributions as well. So again, kudos. Going forward, I wish you much personal success and happiness, and moreover, investment success, continued investment success. So thank you.
Well, I want to say just a word. I've always appreciated, I'm on the committee, and I've always appreciated leaving the committee meetings with the feeling, stay the course. Don't get distracted by the shiny object that's on the other side of the information, or that looks good out there right now. You've always explained to us how things would balance, how the fund itself would balance. And I just feel I'm so much more knowledgeable from listening to you and personally taking away good advice. I think none of us can go wrong if we just use good sense and don't think it's always greener on the other side of the fence, because sometimes it's green on your side and probably will get even greener. So thank you so much. It's going to be a loss to all of us that you won't be advising us, but I have taken away a lot of good information, good solid information from you, which I really appreciate.
Thank you, Director Howard, and thank you, everyone.
Joe, if your duties are changing, good luck to you in your future endeavors. I don't know how much this will change what you do, not advising public bodies or public utilities.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, you're a significant client in my view. It's obviously from not only an asset point of view, but from a relationship point of view as well. And going forward, I will continue to, I'll be transitioning to Mercer at the end of the month. And we'll continue to work with pension and pension-related clients, but just not in the public sector.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for everything you've done. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Question, Joe. If you flip to page 10, now you didn't cover that, but we have it here. That was always something that I enjoyed looking at, the different sectors and where it's at. And you always said, look at the black. The black's always in the middle, and that's the balanced.
That's the balanced portfolio.
And that's what you're saying. Don't get all excited. Don't get panicky or anything. But that slide there is really good. It shows that black is always right in the middle of the pack.
Thank you. Exactly, Director McGowan. When you look at it, you think about the Magnificent Seven. That was growth in 2023. Big winner, 41.2%. And you may question, why weren't we in 100% large cap growth stocks? And the answer is go back to 2022, that negative 29%. Where were they in 2021? 25.8. Where were they in 2020? They were 38. A few solid, strong years, 2019, 2020, but in that situation, trees don't grow to the sky. There's always going to be setbacks. And the good news is, looking at slide 10, with few exceptions, you were invested in most of these asset classes. So that's good news. And that's why the 60-40 portfolio, or in your case, closer to 70-30 portfolios, have strong positive returns over long historic periods.
Thank you, Joe. Our best to you and your family going forward. Thanks for everything.
Thank you so much.
Districts.
Take care.
Now, Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services, John Zellers, will provide a project update on the Construction Center 1 and Construction Center 2. John.
Good morning again. John Zellers, Vice President of Procurement and Enterprise Services. Under tab B, you will find an update on the CC1 and CC2 projects. But before I get started, I want to introduce our owner representative from Project Control, Adam Holman-Heinrich. And I hope I said that right, because I always just say Adam H. And he is an extension of our internal project management team. So I'd like to summarize the status of the project since we brought MCL on as the construction manager at risk, or otherwise termed CMAR, in October of 2023 to aid in the design and perform construction phase services. For CC2, design has progressed into the design development phase. This phase starts to solidify spaces in the building, bringing detail to floor plans for office, shop, and common spaces, to include equipment and furniture layout, physical dimensions, and pedestrian and vehicle flow patterns. The design team continues to engage operating divisions that will work out of CC1 and CC2, along with other stakeholders, to identify and account for needs and requests for their respective work areas. These efforts have been valuable in developing the building and site layouts, and to date, the footprint of CC2 has been defined. As is required by the CMAR, initial estimates were provided for the work as defined in the project narrative presented in the CMAR request for proposals, which included a design that was early in development. The estimate included those from potential subcontractors and suppliers for all building components, including electrical, mechanical, plumbing, finishes, and equipment. The estimate also included contingencies to account for many unknowns as the design was in its early stage. The importance of the initial estimate is to provide a gauge on the design so that, if needed, alternative options through value engineering may be developed, which is not unexpected and is common in the CMAR process. The importance for us specifically is to make sure we align both projects to comply with the overall budget while maintaining project objectives prior to getting too far into the design process, thus causing potential redesign and additional design costs. This is a direct advantage of the CMAR process, as the construction manager is brought on during the design to provide cost estimates, recommendations, and alternatives to maintain budget, schedule, and scope during the design process. This is very different than the standard design bid build, where a contractor is brought on after the design is complete and ready for construction, which allows for more susceptibility to bids coming in over budget, change orders, and a longer construction schedule. The initial estimates provided were not favorable to the budgeted funds for the construction work. The CC2 estimate MCO provided included several value engineering options to be considered by the design team. To date, 21 items have been identified for review, in which 16 have been accepted, 3 rejected, and 2 still under review. Value engineering has reduced the initial estimate of just under $58 million by approximately 18%, or $10.4 million, to $47.6 million. This value is within 4%, or $2.1 million, of the target construction budget stated within the CMAR request for proposals, which was $45.5 million. The estimate includes contingencies, though a level of contingencies will remain in all further estimates, and ultimately the guaranteed maximum price. The contingencies percentage is expected to reduce as the design matures. Currently, contingencies account for approximately 10%, or $4.7 million. Remembering that these figures are based on a design that was early in development and are not final and may change, they will become more defined as we start receiving actual bids. The first round of bids are for the pre-engineered metal buildings and the precast panels, which are to be received later this afternoon. The board may recall awarding 2 early bid packages related to the construction of CC2 outside the CMAR agreement with MCL. The first was in October of 2023 for mass grading and site preparation at CC2. The accepted bid was approximately 31%, or $441,000 less than the budgeted funds for this work. Though a change order is expected due to City of Omaha permitting requirements and encountered soil conditions, the total cost is still expected to be favorable to the budgeted funds. The second was in December 2023 for right-of-way improvement work at CC2. The accepted bid was approximately 30%, or $439,000 less than the budgeted funds for this work. Based on the size, complexity of the overall project, it wouldn't be uncommon for costs of some components to be higher than specific line items within the budget, and some, as in the grading and right-of-way work, to be lower, allowing for opportunities in other sections of the budget. Each member of the project team is dedicated to developing a project or product through the renovation of CC1 and construction of CC2 within the approved budget and on schedule that provides for district operations now and into the future. The objectives continue to remain the same: provide for business continuity, growth, and expansion, enhance emergency response, building longevity, and employee engagement. Beginning in March, a monthly progress report will be distributed to board members. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but also would like to show some progress that we've been making on the actual site since we started grading operations. Jay, can you show the first slide, please? So this is the Virgin site, standard farm field with Potter Street in the background and Highway 133 on the right side of the screen. There was a drainage ditch that provided stormwater flow from property on the west side of Highway 133. Jay, if you can move to the next slide, please. And here we are with grading operations. You can see that the grubbing has occurred along the drainage ditch. A stormwater detention pond has started to emerge on the background. Potter Street's on the background as well, and Highway 133 is on the right side of the screen. And pretty much right in the middle of the picture is where the CC2 building will be constructed. And for the third slide, just did a quick little overlay on the site. The big blue area is the footprint of CC2. Potter is on the right side of the screen with State Street on the left side of the screen and Highway 133 down below. You can see the parking, you can see traffic flow. We have fencing showed and some lay down areas for stores as well for material. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
John, thanks for the update, and I appreciate the fact that there will be continued vigilance on the oversight of this to make sure we try to keep as close to budget as possible. I'm old enough to remember when we moved into this building and we had estimates on what it was going to cost to renovate this building, and that got out of hand. And I'm just glad to know that we are keeping a number of close eyes on this project, which is incredibly important to the district. So thanks for the update, and look forward to continued updates in the future.
And I definitely share your comments. The project team is completely diligent in every decision that we're making, and the budget and the schedule is forefront in all of our minds. And that's just not the district representation, that's the whole design team, which includes our architects, engineers, and construction professionals.
Thank you.
All right. Great, thank you.
With that, are there any members of the public in attendance today who would like to address the board? Seeing none, do any board members have any further comments? Seeing none, this meeting has now concluded. We will reconvene for the regular monthly board meeting in 10 minutes. Let's call the meeting back to order. I'm Jim Begley, the chairperson of the M.U.D Board of Directors, and I'd like to welcome you all to the regular monthly board meeting this morning, February 7th, 2024. This meeting is being live streamed from the boardroom at the M.U.D headquarters building located at 7350 World Communications Drive, and recording of this meeting will be uploaded to the M.U.D website after the meeting's conclusion. Roll call, please.
Howard?
Here.
Kavanaugh?
Here.
Begley?
Here.
Cook? Here. Friend?
Here.
Sidzik?
Here.
McGowan?
Here.
Would like to advise all those in attendance that a copy of the Open Meetings Act is available on the wall in the back of the room. And now for those who wish to participate, we will recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to ask for approval of the minutes for the committee meetings and regular board meeting for January 3rd, 2024. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call, please.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Director Friend.
Thank you. Item number 5, capital expenditures. This was discussed in committee, and I move approval as outlined in the memo from Andy Melville dated February 1st.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item number 6, acceptance of contracts, payment of final estimates, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Adam Gartner dated January 22nd.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item number 7, bids on materials and contracts during the month of January, also discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Sherry Lightfoot dated January 26th.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item number 8, bids on materials. Item number 8, notice of purchases between $25,000 and $50,000 be placed on file. Item number 9, main extensions. This was discussed in committee. I move approval as outlined in the memo from Masa Nia dated January 31st.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item number 10, I move that we approve the wage and/or salary increases and ratifications as discussed in committee this morning and presented by Ms. Savine during committee meetings.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item 11, SPA salary structure adjustment. I move that we approve the SPA salary structure adjustment as outlined in the memo dated January 22nd, 2024, and discussed by Ms. Savine this morning during committee meetings.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item 12, the renewal of water franchise agreement and the purchase of Ralston's water distribution system. The management recommends that we approve the agreement with the city of Ralston to take over ownership of the water distribution system. Hopefully I framed that correctly. Is that going to work? Despite our past relationship of 25 years, we now own the distribution system. I move for approval. It was discussed in committee, by the way.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item 13 is the ratification of a purchase and easement agreements in Sarpy County. The acquisition was negotiated with the owner, and the acquisition was completed, and management recommends that we approve the recommendation to close on this transaction near 168th and Cape Hart Road in Sarpy County. I move for approval. That was discussed in committee.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item 14, the ratification of purchase 2816 State Street.
Which is on your side.
Management's recommending that the Board of Directors approve the efforts to purchase this residential property. And I move for approval, and it was discussed in committee.
Yes, I did.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Item 15 was the first legislative report for the 2024 session. Because it is the first legislative report, MUD has taken positions, and this was discussed in committee, and management recommends that we adopt the recommendations on the official positions of MUD, and I move for approval.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Other matters of district business for discussion. At this point, do any board members have anything, any further comments they wish to share? Okay, at this juncture, we'd like to have Annie Melville, Jim Knight, Matt Hammond, and Mr. Doyle will speak on recent weather and effects across the district. Andy.
Good morning again. Andy Melville, Interim Senior Vice President, Chief Operations Officer. Jay, if you could bring up the slides, please. With the weather that we've had this last week and today's 59-degree predicted high temperature, it's a little bit hard to talk about this 3 weeks ago where we had two back-to-back storms with negative temperatures, almost a foot of snow, blinding whiteout conditions, but we want to make sure we take a few minutes here to review the actions by district employees showing our resilience through these type of events. The pictures on this first slide here are a good snapshot of the work required for both the water and gas main repairs in these frigid conditions that were made worse by that heavy snowfall and the wind. Next slide, please. Throughout any type of event, we focus on ensuring that our customers have the life-essential energy and water they rely upon while keeping our employees and the public safe. We achieve this through preparing for events using our business continuity plans. They are reviewed and practiced often to ensure that there's smooth execution when needed. A major part of our plan is also communication with our customers and the public. Next slide. To set the stage, let's look at a few of the details from these back-to-back storm systems. We were dealt with a triple threat of nearly a foot of snow combined with gusty winds, extreme negative temperatures. The January 13th to 16th storm ended up being the fourth longest stretch on record of negative temperatures lasting 75 hours. Not only are those conditions miserable to work in, but they can be dangerous if you're not prepared. Next slide. In preparation for the forecasted storm, we took actions to reduce our employees' exposure to the dangerous conditions as much as possible and provide extra resources when emergency work was required. Some of the internal actions taken, as you can see on the screen there, were declaring inclement weather days where operations were modified to focus on only emergency outside work when possible. Inside training opportunities were provided as well to keep people inside and protected. Travel was avoided by utilizing remote work options for those who had primarily inside jobs. Additional resources of employees and vehicles were added to emergency response crews, allowing more time and space for those employees to warm up while they worked. We added specialized support staff on call and on duty, such as electricians and mechanics, to ensure mobile and stationary equipment could be repaired quickly if needed. And internal communication groups were stood up to ensure constant awareness with situational updates, which allowed us to have quick decision making. Next slide. To ensure our customers were prepared and understood these actions that we were taking, multiple news releases were sent out. These included reassurance of our capabilities and safety tips to prevent frozen pipes due to these extreme temperatures. Additionally, our business development group provided direct communications to our interruptible customers and CNG users to ensure they had the information needed to prepare for their operations during these events. Virtually every division of the district had some involvement in the successful execution during these cold weather snaps that we had. I guess I'll end my comments with the acknowledgement of the resilience of the district is not only achieved by its employees, but it's also through many prior and ongoing initiatives that the board has supported to provide the resources that we can use. Some of these examples are modeling, ability to model systems, such as what we did for a couple of emergencies over that time period on the gas system. Projects that actually reinforce the gas system, years worth of different growth and decisions that were made to make our system redundant enough that we could do some emergency work. The IT systems for communications, information sharing, our gas and water infrastructure replacements, and then providing reliable equipment and vehicles for us to respond to these emergencies with. All of those took a lot of preparation from the employees, but also took support from the board as well. So thank you for that. So at this time, I guess I'll turn it over to Jim Knight, who will highlight our efforts related to the gas side during these events.
Andy, can I ask you a quick question? On the propane, when we turn on the propane, do we have to notify certain customers? I think we used to notify First National Bank or somebody. Some of the customers have to adjust their burners or something. Do we have a list of customers we contact?
Yes, when we peak shave with propane, that can have an effect on certain customers. We'll make those outreaches. Usually business development takes care of that, if it's CNG vehicles or fuel cells, things of that nature. But yeah, we do make positive outreach to those customers.
Is there a lot of customers that have that impact?
You know, it's changed over the years. The CNG has grown with customers having their own compression ability. Less fuel cells than there used to be, but and we've done a lot of work with different institutions that have large boilers and help them to tune their equipment to make it less impacted by the propane. But I don't know if Jim has an idea of how many customers anymore. Two? Okay.
Two?
There you go.
Okay. One other quick question. Is the LNG plant staffed 24/7?
It has various operational scenarios that we go through. So
during that cold snap, was it 24/7?
We had staff there the whole time. Yep.
Jim's one.
Yep.
Okay.
Andy, real quick question. Given what you just shared with us, is there a post-incident assessment done with all the parties that were affected at the district to find out what we did well, what we could do better? These are always very incredibly important learning experiences for the district. Is there such an assessment that you'd be able to provide the board in the next couple of months?
Sure. Basically, each event we have, we try to do an after action shortly after that happens. And yeah, we can provide information on that as well.
Because I think given some of the Arctic blasts we've had in recent years, we've learned a lot from those incidents and applied them to this most recent one, and then continuing to learn from this one going forward. So job well done by everybody. Incredibly impressive.
And you'll hear from Jim and Matt also about how our interactions with OPPD and National Weather Service, the Corps of Engineers. There's a lot of other partners, and we're planning to do an after action with OPPD as well regarding the river.
Great. And I think there's a lot of confidence in how the district operates under such conditions. The same can be said for all public entities, but I think we came through with flying colors during the most recent incident, so thank you.
Thank you.
While Jim steps up, Mark Doyle, President, just for those that don't know, the reason propane is a topic, you mix propane with air and you inject it into the natural gas system, and it burns a little different. We used to get a lot of calls way back where people noticed the flame on their gas stoves wasn't as blue as it should be, maybe?
It's counterintuitive.
It's counterintuitive, yeah.
When you put propane air in the system, for it to burn like natural gas, you actually have to put it out at a much higher BTU.
Right.
And then it fools the furnace.
And the CNG customers are extremely important because they will notice in their vehicles because it burns different. And we've done a really good job of, like UPS, for example, they're valved off of they don't get propane.
Correct. They're on a part of our system that doesn't see propane.
Yeah, so we're very mindful of that. But I was glad to hear it's only 2.
Yes, yep.
Because that asset is very important, and we've talked about it a lot. So I'll turn it over to Jim.
All right. Jim Knight, Vice President of Gas Operations. Good morning. So prior to the cold spell hitting, about 10 days prior, my team started having meetings, getting ready for, as we saw the cold weather moving in. It seemed like as we got closer, it kept getting colder and colder. So sometimes it goes the other way, but not this time. So we were in constant contact with Northern Natural Gas, also OPPD, as well. So we monitor the Southwest power pool conditions. We really monitor what's going on the electric side. They are becoming much larger and larger consumers of natural gas, even in the wintertime, especially if the wind's not blowing. If the wind's not blowing, they will burn a lot of natural gas to make up for the lack of wind turbine production. We kept senior staff update. We were sending daily updates to the senior team and all the gas operations. We set a new peak month for gas send out of 6.8 million decatherms. Our previous peak month was set back in January of 2010 at 6.5 million. That was 17% over budget. Our gas distribution folks closely, who operate and maintain our regular stations, were monitoring very closely throughout the cold snap. Next slide. This is a chart showing our daily send out throughout the month of January. You can see there's just a little bit of variability. We set the peak day during January was 363,000 decatherms. Our minimum day was 120,000, so nearly 3-to-1 swing in gas load during that month. From January 13th through the 16th, that 4-day weekend, gas prices for the 12th were $3 a decatherm, so we were able to buy quite a bit of that, not have to run our peak shaving plants. When we're buying gas for the 4-day weekend, so that was a Friday, so we had to buy gas for 4 days. Normally you can buy it just 1 day in advance, but because of the weekend you had to buy 4 days. Gas prices averaged $35, so they jumped from $3 to $35. And that's why you see in the blue, the dark blue, you see all of the peak shaving we did. During that 4-day stretch, those plants provided 35% of our gas send out during that time. They made, it was like about 430,000 decatherms. Our peak day, production-wise, was close to about 134,000 decatherms. I'd also like to mention, the rest of it, of course, is supplied by our pipeline supplier, Northern Natural Gas, who did a great job during the cold spell. We had no issues as far as our pipeline deliveries coming from Northern, so everything ran well there. Let's go to the next slide. As we were talking about peak shaving, I mentioned the $35 gas that we avoided having to purchase for that 4-day weekend. That saved us approximately $16 million in gas costs over those 4 days. In 2024, the peak shaving plants will save us an additional $13 million in pipeline demand charges. Going back to Director Kavanaugh had asked questions about kind of historical savings of the peak shaving plants. So since the year 2000, the peak shaving plants had saved us $302 million. So over the last 24 years, that is in pipeline demand charges as well as gas cost savings. This is a net savings number, so this factors in all of the operation maintenance expense for our employees. It factors in all of our capital costs that we've invested into the plant. It's factoring in the, right now, our debt service costs for the bonds that we use to finance the capital improvement project. That's factored in, so it's a net number. Speaking of the LNG capital improvement project, the new vaporization system, phase 1 of the project, testing and commissioning was completed in mid-December, never a moment too soon. It performed very well during the month of January. Timing's everything, isn't it? But since it was, it was new to our staff and it was new equipment, that's one of the things we did ahead of time is we had our consultant, CHI Engineering, was on site during that whole weekend, helping troubleshoot any issues that may have come up. It performed very, very well. I couldn't have been happier with how well it performed. Not if we weren't busy enough. On Friday, I guess that would have been the 19th, I believe, we had a gas leak on a large transmission gas main at 84th and Frederick. It was a 16-inch, 125 PSI main. This is just south of one of our major delivery points from Northern Natural Gas, which is at 84th and Center. So this took a team effort from gas distribution, gas production, engineering, construction, field services, systems control. This was from 6 in the morning till construction finally had the leak repaired at midnight that night. They had to weld a sleeve, reinforcing sleeve over the main. Took 3 hours of welding. So construction was out there. I mean, it was 0 degrees all day long. The other thing we called in was, as you see the picture on the lower right, that's a picture of one of Northern Natural's bottle trucks. So there is compressed natural gas inside those cylinders at about 850 PSI. And so we hooked that up to our system. There was one area of our system where we thought we might need some backup. So we hooked it up. Luckily, we didn't need it, but it was there just in case. Special shout out to Northern Natural because we called them at about noon saying, hey, can we get that bottle truck here? And they were there by about 5 o'clock. So they had 2 trucks to help us out.
Thanks, Frank. Still here?
He's still here.
Okay.
That concludes my remarks. Do you have any questions?
Jim, Mark Doyle, President, do you remember what the temperature was when we had the leak on the large main?
It was 0 all day long.
Okay, it was.
And by that night, it was below 0.
Extremely cold. And, never are you more aware of the life essential services we provide here. And, you have to get that fixed. You hope the odor doesn't cause unneeded scares to the community. You hope no one loses their furnace or their house. This is just a stellar effort across the board, and Jim mentions the departments there, and there's employees behind all those departments, and some of them are watching right now because I talk with them. Hats off to everyone on this specifically, but the whole resilience efforts, and I know Matt's going to share a little bit, but it is a good time to introduce Frank Oldenhouse from Northern and stress that the relationship here between M.U.D. and Northern, I don't think it could be better, but if it could be, we'll make it better. We are all in this together, and while we're battling and trying to make sure that we keep these life essential services on for our customers, Northern's doing the same at a higher level for their customers across the pipeline footprint. And Jim, you mentioned the Southwest Power Pool. Yes, of course we monitor that because it's directly related to the gas that's needed to generate electricity and keep it for what we do. But we always say, when the wind's not blowing, when the sun's not shining, and now we're going to say when the river's not flowing. Because when the river's not flowing, You might lose electricity on the river, and we worked real hard in the southwest portion of our distribution system, along with Northern and along with OPPD, to mitigate what happened on the river with electricity generation. And I don't know if we get enough credit for it, but you get credit from us and the board and the public, because that was a stellar effort to change pressures and help out. Whether they need it or not, we're all in this together, and we all have the same customers. So great job to everyone.
Thank you.
My best friend lives in that area, and I had lunch with him. He told me, he says, when it was way below zero, he said, I can't believe I drove by and M.U.D. had people out there working, underground and in holes. I go, well, yeah. What do you expect if there's a water main break? Do you want to go without water for the rest of the winter? And gas? Yeah. Of course it is. And he says, these guys are the real heroes. He says, yeah, the people who push the snow do, tough work out there in the cold, but these guys are the real heroes. And I said, yes, I'll pass it on.
Yeah, you did.
And I want to say, looking at these pictures, I really appreciate how management and labor work together to provide the things that the employees are going to need, like those heavy-duty boots, the clothes that are going to protect them. I just think that's so critical. We can't expect people to be out there unless they know that we're concerned about how they're ready to do these jobs. Thank you for working on those issues. We may not think they're important when it's June, but it certainly matters under these conditions.
Thank you.
Jim, do you know how Black Hills and Mid-American did during that cold snap? I remember in the vortex a couple years ago, they had to buy a lot of gas on the spot market, and they all had incremental surcharges. Both of them did for a while.
Yes.
I think Mid-American still does, but...
Black Hills still does.
Oh, Black Hills, okay.
Yep.
Still does. And I know we buy a lot of our gas at the beginning of the month, which is good. And when we have a chance to buy it cheaper than the LNG, we buy it, which is smart. But I just wondered if you heard anything from those two.
I haven't yet, and usually it takes a little bit of time before, even during the polar vortex, it was about a month before you started hearing things. I'm guessing we probably won't see much, just because during the polar vortex of 21, gas prices got to $200 to $300,
yeah.
And this is around 30. So my guess they'll use their normal methods to recoup any additional prices they had to pay for the gas.
Do either Black Hills or Mid-American, do they have LNG or propane?
To my knowledge, Black Hills does not. Mid-American does have 2 or 3 LNG plants. I know there's one in Des Moines you see right as you're going down I-80. It's right off the interstate.
Okay. Black Hills has none?
Not to my knowledge, yeah.
Wow.
All right, thanks.
All right. Good morning. Matt Hammond, Vice President of Water Operations, and get to share with you about the efforts on the water side during this time. Similar to gas, about a week out, we started getting weather reports and information from the National Weather Service, indicating that over the long weekend, conditions were going to be ripe for potential ice jamming. That kicked off a lot of preparation activities, certainly binge watching weather reports and watching, keeping an eye on the river graphs. Preparations that our team put in place, particularly at the Flores plant where a lot of the processes are outside. We're putting in place heaters, making sure heat tape was in place and working, and installing ice heaters, which you'll see on the next slide in front of the intakes. Next slide. So quick picture here of just recirculating water in front of the intakes to prevent ice from forming. Did a great job while there was water in front of the intakes. But in the middle slide, you'll see that that started to drop. Next slide. Yeah, over the weekend, river levels started to drop. Upriver of us, there was a first ice jam that formed, followed by a second one, and that really affected the levels here at Omaha. By Sunday afternoon, the levels in front at our intakes got to a point to where They were at a critical level, and a decision was made to go ahead and take the Florence water production facility offline, both to protect the plant and also do so at a time that was protecting the safety of our teams there. Production was able to be seamlessly shifted from Florence over to Platte South and Platte West that took on the load. And then, as you can start seeing there, river levels started to rebound. And in about a week's time, Florence was able to be brought back on with very little impact or damage to the plant. A little bit of perspective. You can see there on that graph that we all watched really closely over the weekend. River levels at the Omaha gauge. River level stage bottomed out at a stage level of 3.95 feet, which is almost 2 inches lower than the previous record, which happened to be last winter. And so I think the important number, though, with that, though, is zero, because through that, there was zero impact or effect to our customers through that. And that's really a testament to the work of our teams through that, and the infrastructure that's been put in place to be able to put us in that position. So with that, happy to answer any questions on the water side.
I just want to say that triangle reliability, that's worth its weight in gold, so to speak. Our customers are blessed to have M.U.D management and teams focused on providing services. The triangle reliability, the peak shaving plants on the gas side provide a good cushion to our customers. And I never heard of any customers having bad impacts this last cold snap. It's just a good story to tell. And I'd like to ask each of you if I could get a copy of your slides, because I get asked to talk to some different groups and everything, and I'd like to brag about the things we do. So if I could get a copy of the slides, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Mark, anything further on that?
No, not really. I think I've said my piece. I appreciate the work that went into this. We appreciate your time here because it doesn't just happen. So we do like to highlight some of the things because they can trend in a really bad direction really fast. So I'm always wondering how much updating the board wants. I may have over-updated a little bit, but you can always delete the messages and then...
And Mark, I was just going to say thank you so much for keeping us posted, as things moved along, because actually I heard them faster from you than I did from the news, which I really appreciated. So thank you.
Well, I think we have a very well-informed board, and it always shows, and I think it's important. So thank you.
I appreciate the updates too, because my background, I understand what people are going through and everything, and I like to ask some detailed questions, so appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone, for the updates. Before we move on, I just want to remind everybody, Saturday, March 2nd is the Heat the Streets Run and Walk for Warmth. If you haven't registered already, you can go to heatthestreetsomaha.com to register if you'd like to sponsor the event. We're doing very well with the number of registrants we have, but the more the merrier, and it's a very worthwhile event. Obviously, we just heard an update on the winter we've had already and those that are struggling for their utility bills. So if you can come out, and it's always a fun morning. It's always great to see many familiar faces. So please go to heatthestreetsomaha.com to register.
And I'd just like to add to that for some reason, it's always warmer when the Bagleys sponsor it than when the Howards sponsor it. I've noticed this over the years.
Well, there's no such thing as luck of the Irish. I'll give that credit to my wife, Rebecca. So.
All right, whatever works. So it should be very nice, so come out.
So are there any members of the public present who would like to address the board for any topic that was discussed today? Seeing none, we will now go into closed session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I so move.
Second.
Discussion?
Why are we going to closed session? No, I mean the motion.
Pardon me?
The motion.
For real estate litigation or
Real estate.
personnel purposes.
Oh, okay. Do we need to start over?
Please.
I move that we go into closed session to talk about real estate litigation or personnel.
Second.
Discussion. Roll call.
Howard.
Yes.
Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Begley.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
Friend.
Yes.
Sidzik.
Yes.
McGowan.
Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Let me repeat that. A motion to return to open session with my microphone on.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Howard?
Yes.
Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Begley?
Yes.
Cook?
Yes.
Friend?
Yes.
Sidzik?
Yes.
McGowan?
Yes.
We are adjourned.